Hi there, my name is Alyssa. Welcome to my channel and welcome to my kitchen. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing 4 delicious cozy fall recipes with you. 3 of these recipes are delicious dinner recipes that I really think you're going to enjoy. My family always does, and I love making these recipes for them. They're so easy to make, they come together quickly, and they're delicious. And the other fall recipe I'm going to be sharing with you is one of my favorite fall treats. It has pumpkin in it. It's pumpkin muffins, but there's a little bit of a twist on them, and I can't wait to share them with you. So with all that said, let's go get started on the fall recipes. The first recipe we're going to start off with is with this delicious chili mac. So here's everything you're going to need for the chili portion of this recipe. You'll need some tomato paste, a can of kidney beans, some chicken broth, a can of chili beans, some diced tomatoes, some tomato sauce, some minced garlic, onion, ground beef, 1 bell pepper in any color will do, and for seasonings you'll need cumin, oregano, smoked paprika, and chili powder. And then for the mac and cheese portion of this, you'll need some milk, some heavy cream, some pasta, some cheddar cheese, butter, flour, and then onion powder, garlic powder, and mustard powder. So the very first thing I did was get my ground beef into a pot, and I just started mashing it up to start cooking. I then diced up my onion, so I wanted about a half a cup of diced onion, and I also cut up my bell pepper into small cubes. Once my ground beef was brown, I added in my onion and my bell pepper. In this portion, if you want to drain off some of your fat, you can just take a paper towel and move it along in the pot with your spoon just to kind of soak up the fat. And then you can add in your onion and your bell pepper here. And then I also added in 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, and I gave it all a good mix. So while that was all cooking down for just a few, I then got a pot filled with water onto my stovetop, and I added in a generous amount of salt, and I got the burner turned on so this can start heating up, and this is going to be for my pasta. So now that my onion and bell pepper have cooked down for just a few in my ground beef, I went ahead and I added in my seasonings to the chili. So I added in about 2 teaspoons of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of oregano, a pinch of smoked paprika, and then just some salt and pepper to taste. I also added in about 1 tablespoon of tomato paste, and then 1 can of tomato sauce, 1 can of diced tomatoes, and about a half a cup of chicken broth, and I just gave it all a good mix. Next, I added in 1 can of chili beans, and I didn't drain anything out of this because you want all that yumminess in your chili. And then I did drain my kidney beans, and I added in the can of that as well. So I just mixed it all up really well, and then I just put my lid on and I turned my burner down so it can come to a low simmer. By this point, my water had come to a boil for my pasta, so I added my pasta into the boiling water. I then got started on my roux for the cheese sauce. So I added 2 tablespoons of butter, and I waited for it to melt down. I then added in 2 tablespoons of flour. I mixed it all up, and I let it heat for just a few before adding in my cream and milk. So once it was heated, I slowly added in half a cup of heavy cream and then 1 cup of milk. I then added in about a half a teaspoon of each of the following seasonings. So mustard powder, onion powder, and garlic powder, all half a teaspoon. I then added in a pinch of salt and pepper, and I gave that all a good mix. I then added in about 1.5 cups of shredded medium cheddar cheese. And so when making this cheese sauce, I completely recommend shredding your own cheese from a block rather than using the pre-shredded cheese from the grocery store. It'll just melt so much better and taste delicious doing it this way. So once my cheese was completely melted, I just added in my drained pasta right into the cheese sauce, and I mixed it all up. So now that my chili has come to a low simmer, it has been cooking for a few, and my mac and cheese was all done, I added that creamy mac and cheese right into the chili. Yum, and I gave it all a good mix before serving it. This chili mac is the perfect mashup of a creamy mac and cheese and a hearty, flavorful chili. Your family will want this on repeat all through fall. It is that good. So I just dished this up into a bowl that I had also topped with some medium cheddar cheese right on top, and I served it alongside a green salad. This recipe also makes so much that we actually had the perfect amount left over for a second dinner. So I just put it into a gallon Ziploc bag once it was completely cooled, and I laid it flat so it could freeze flat, and it fit perfectly in my freezer, and now I have a second dinner of this delicious chili mac. The next recipe is one of my all-time favorite fall recipes, and it's these delicious pumpkin cream cheese muffins. So here's everything you're going to need for this recipe. You'll need some flour, some sugar, some baking soda, pumpkin spice, pumpkin puree, brown sugar, vegetable oil, eggs, vanilla, and then for the cream cheese topping, you'll also need vanilla for that, and then you'll need some sugar and some cream cheese. The first thing you want to make sure to do is to set your oven to start preheating before mixing up your ingredients, and I just set my oven to preheat at 375 degrees. You'll also want to either line your muffin tins with some liners or spray it really well with some cooking spray. Okay, so I just added 1 3/4 cup of flour in here. Now I'm gonna add in some pumpkin spice. I'm gonna do a tablespoon of this. Now I'm gonna add in some baking soda, and I'm gonna do 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And then I'm just gonna do a pinch of salt. Okay, so for this recipe, you're gonna need to use 1 whole can, a 15-ounce can of the pure pumpkin puree. Now I'm gonna add in my 1 cup of granulated sugar. I'm also going to do 1/2 cup of packed brown sugar. And then you just wanna whisk it all together before you add in your eggs. So now I'm just gonna add in my 2 eggs. I'm just gonna beat these in. And then next I'm gonna add in 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. And then 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. Okay, so now that this is all mixed up, I'm gonna slowly add in my dry ingredients and get this all mixed up. Today is the perfect day for these muffins because it's one of our first gloomy, like feels like fall days. It's kind of drizzling outside and it's the perfect weather. And then my girls are in the living room and they're watching Spookly the Square Pumpkin while they're looking at the Amazon toy Christmas magazine. I can't believe we already got that. And they're circling like everything in it. Okay, so you just wanna make sure once everything is added in here, the flour mixture, you wanna make sure there's just no lumps. And then once it's all done, then we're gonna add this into our muffin tins before we put in the cream cheese mixture. Okay, so that looks really good, nice and smooth. There's no lumps. So I'm gonna get those into the muffin tins. Okay, so you wanna fill your muffins about 3/4 of the way full so you leave room for the cream cheese mixture. Okay, so I was able to fill up all of the 18 muffins, which is exactly the serving size for this recipe. I thought I was gonna be short some, but I just took a measuring spoon and took some out of the super full ones. I think I overfilled some of them, so that's fine. So I have 18 large muffins here. So now I'm gonna make up the cream cheese mixture that I'm gonna swirl into the muffins. Okay, so to make up the cream cheese mixture, I have 8 ounces of cream cheese here. I've been letting it sit out on the counter to kind of soften up. And I'm just gonna add it into this bowl. I'm gonna beat the cream cheese to help soften it up before I add in the rest of the ingredient. So now that I just beat the cream cheese, I'm gonna add in 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. I'm also going to add in 1 egg yolk. So now I'm just gonna add in the last ingredient. It's just a couple teaspoons of vanilla extract. I'm just gonna whisk this all together. So that's all done. I'm gonna get this added into my muffins. Okay, so you're gonna add in about a tablespoon or so of the cream cheese mixture into each muffin, and then you wanna mix it up a little bit and swirl it around with a little toothpick. Okay, so I filled each one with the cream cheese mixture, and now I'm just gonna kind of swirl it into the pumpkin batter, just slightly. You don't want to incorporate completely because you just want that swirl effect. Okay, so I swirled in the cheese mixture in with the pumpkin batter. Now I'm gonna put these in my oven, and I'm gonna start them to bake around 17 or so minutes. I'm gonna check on them. If they need a little bit longer, then I'll keep them in there for a couple more minutes. Okay, so these are all done. I ended up baking these probably for about 20 minutes or so, keeping an eye on them. At the end, I did drop it down to 350 to just let them finish off a little bit longer because I didn't want the tops to get super brown. But they're all done. I'm just letting them cool completely now before we get into them. They smell so good. The house smells just like fall. The next fall recipe I have to share with you is this cheesy chicken Alfredo pasta bake. So here's everything you're going to need for this recipe. You'll need some pasta, some seasoning. I like the Kinder's Blend seasoning, but you can just use salt and pepper if you don't have that. And then you'll need some chicken broth, some heavy cream, mozzarella cheese, some Parmesan cheese. So I have a blend here of an Italian cheese blend, but really you just need Parmesan cheese and that'll do. Some minced garlic and then some chicken. And I decided to use rotisserie chicken for this dinner tonight. So the very first thing I did was get a large pot filled with water onto my burner for my pasta. And I also added in a generous amount of salt to this. So I removed the meat from my rotisserie chicken. This is the portion I'm going to be using for my Alfredo bake. This is just extra that I have over here. I'm gonna put this in my fridge and I could do wraps with it, salad, whichever. So if you don't have rotisserie chicken, you can use chicken breast. I would say do about 3 medium-ish sized chicken breast. You want about 3 or so cups of meat. You can season your chicken breast and then dice it up and then cook it in your pan with some olive oil or butter. And then you can add it into your Alfredo bake. So my water over here is boiling for my pasta. So I'm gonna get that added in and cook that. Okay, so I'm gonna get my pot on the burner. I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of butter, 1.5 cups of heavy cream, and 1 cup of chicken broth. I'm also going to add about a tablespoon or so of some garlic and I'm gonna let that heat up and come to a boil. Okay, so I also added in, I forgot to mention it, Italian seasoning, and then I added in my the blend seasoning, which is just salt, pepper, and garlic. You could just put in some salt and pepper to taste. It's been boiling for just a few minutes, and now I'm gonna add in 1.5 cups of the Parmesan cheese Romano blend, and I'm gonna melt that down. Okay, so the cheese is melted down and it's boiling again. I'm now gonna add in my chicken. So I just added in my chicken breast. So I'm adding in my chicken breast here just to kind of heat it up because mine was cold from the rotisserie chicken. You don't have to let it heat up if you don't want, if you did chicken breast, because yours is gonna be hot. You would just add in your chicken here, and then you would add in your pasta before pouring it into your casserole dish. So next, I'm just gonna add in my pasta so I can mix it all in this bowl before putting it into the casserole dish. Okay, so now I'm gonna add this into my casserole dish, but I'm going to do half of it and then put some mozzarella cheese in the center and then the rest on top. All right, so I just put just a small little layer of mozzarella, shredded mozzarella cheese, and now I'm gonna put the rest of my chicken Alfredo on top. There wasn't much left in that bag, so why not just dump it all in. And then I'm also gonna sprinkle a little more of some grated Parmesan cheese. This is just a blend, Italian blend. You could just use regular, whatever you have. So I'm gonna get this in my oven and I'm gonna put it under the broiler for about 10 or so minutes until the cheese is nice golden brown and bubbly. All right, so it's all done. You just want your cheese to get a little crispy on top and completely melted, and it's ready to go.
This Alfredo bake is a perfect go-to fall dinner for any busy weeknight. It's cheesy and loaded with so much yumminess, and it's a pure comfort meal. Just like the chili mac, this recipe makes so much food, so I had enough left over to put into a foil pan and toss it into my freezer for a future dinner. I love when I can easily do that. The last recipe I'm excited to share with you is this amazing sausage tortellini soup.
So one of my favorite dinners to make in the fall and winter is, of course, soup. I love making soup. My family loves all different types of soup that I make. So tonight's soup that I'm gonna be making is this sausage tortellini. So here's everything you're going to need for this recipe. You're going to need some type of Italian sausage. I just went with mild. You can definitely use hot if that's what you'd like. Kale, and then a bag of cheese tortellini, an onion, some garlic, some chicken broth. You're gonna need about 4 or so cups, maybe 5. I have 4 cups here with these 2 cans. I may add a little bit of water because this is all I have. We'll see how much I'll need. And then some evaporated milk. And then for seasonings, I need basil, oregano, some mustard powder, and then I'm of course gonna use some salt and pepper. And then I'm also going to use a little bit of butter just to saute my onion in and my garlic, and then I'll use a little bit of olive oil as well. So the first thing I'm doing is just dicing up my onion for this soup. I'm just gonna do about a cup or so, give or take. And now I'm just adding in about 3 tablespoons of butter. I'm also gonna drizzle in just a little bit of olive oil. I like sauteing my onions and garlic in butter. If you just wanna do all olive oil, then that's definitely okay. Okay, so my butter's pretty much melted and hot. I'm just gonna add in my diced onion and saute that for just a few minutes until it's translucent. I would say probably 4 or so minutes. So this soup is actually a spin off of Zuppa Toscana. If you haven't heard of Zuppa Toscana, it also has sausage and kale, and I put evaporated milk in mine, but it also has potatoes, which isn't going in this soup. Cheese tortellini is going in place, so it's just a little bit of a spin off, and I put a few different seasonings in it as well in this soup. Now that my onions have been cooking for just a few, I'm gonna add in some minced garlic. I'd say 2 to 3 cloves or so. I like extra garlic in my soup. And I'm just gonna saute this for just a few before adding in my sausage. Next, I'm adding in a pound of sausage. Okay, so while my sausage was cooking, I added in my seasoning. So I added in some salt and pepper to taste. I added in about a teaspoon or so of basil, about a half a teaspoon of oregano, and about a half a teaspoon or so of mustard powder. And that's been cooking down for a little bit. And I also forgot to mention in the lineup of ingredients is flour. So I'm gonna add in 3 tablespoons of flour to this so it can kind of help thicken up the soup. And now I'm just gonna mix this all up. So I'm just cooking the flour for just a few, about 1 to 2 minutes, just to kind of cook out the flour taste. This part is optional. I'm gonna add in some cooking wine just to kind of deglaze the bottom of the pan and remove all of those brown bits. So I'm just gonna scrape the pan to kind of help remove all of that, because that's a bunch of yummy stuff that I would like in my soup. But that part's optional. You really don't have to do that. I'm going to add in my broth now, so I'm going to add in my 2 cans of chicken broth. Okay, so I'm going to want a little bit more liquid in there, so I'm going to add in about a half a can or so of water. You don't have to add in the water if you don't want to. If you would like to put more chicken broth in, I would actually put more chicken broth in, but I don't have any more. I just had 2 cans, so I'm just going to do the water instead. It'll be fine. Next, I'm gonna add in my evaporated milk. So you can add in evaporated milk here. You can add in heavy cream if that's what you have. You want at least a cup of heavy cream or evaporated milk. This can is 12 ounces, so it's more than a cup. But I'm just gonna do the whole can because rather than waste it, I don't have anything else to do with it. I'm just gonna throw it in the soup because it's just gonna taste that much more delicious, and I'm okay with that. Okay, so I'm gonna bring this to a boil and let it simmer for a bit before I add in my tortellini and kale. Okay, I brought my soup to a boil and then I turned down my burner and I have been letting it simmer for just a few. I'm gonna add in my tortellini right now. Okay, so I just added in my bag of cheese tortellini. I just did my entire bag. It was 19 ounces was the size of the bag. So you could do that, or you could do a little bit less. I would say maybe 2 cups or a little bit more if you like extra. Okay, so now that I've added in my tortellini, I'm also going to add in my kale. Okay, so you want to add in about 2 cups or so of kale chopped up. I already got the pre-chopped bag of kale, but I'm also making sure to not add in these. These are pretty hard, and they always add them into the bag of kale. You could also use spinach instead if you don't want to go with kale, but I enjoy this in my soup. Okay, so now that I've added in my kale, I'm going to put the lid on and let this cook for 3 to 5 minutes. You can let it simmer on low, but it'll be ready to serve after that.
This sausage tortellini soup is so good, and it's a staple in our house every fall and winter. It's rich, it's creamy, and it comes together in less than 30 minutes. What's better than that? You'll definitely have to try this one out.
All right, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, I would love to have you, so make sure to subscribe down below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate you being here, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.